We hear about having the right mindset all the time, right? But what does that even mean? So often, it just gets boiled down to think positive. Today, we're going to look at it in a totally different way. We're going to be architects. We're going to explore the actual structure of a resilient mind, blueprint by blueprint, drawing from psychology, neuroscience, and even some ancient philosophy, to see how it's really built right from the ground up.
So, let's just ask it straight up. Is that really the secret? Is just thinking happy thoughts the one key that unlocks all our potential? Well, that's the popular myth. But the reality? The reality is way more interesting and honestly, a lot more powerful.
Yeah, the science tells us it's a lot more complex than that. An optimal mindset isn't some switch you just flip on. It's an entire mental architecture. It's a whole system of load-bearing beliefs and practical skills that you have to consciously design, build, and maintain.
And every strong building starts with a solid foundation, right? Well, for our mental architecture, that absolute cornerstone is what the psychologist Carol Dweck famously called the growth mindset.
The core idea here is just so powerful. Your abilities aren't carved in stone at birth. And look, this isn't just some nice motivational slogan, it's actually grounded in hard science, in neuroplasticity. That's the brain's incredible ability to physically rewire itself based on what you do. So with every new challenge you take on, every ounce of effort you put in, you are literally building new connections, making your brain stronger and faster. And this is where you can see the night and day difference in how it plays out. Someone with a fixed mindset, they see effort as a bad thing, a sign of weakness. If I was really smart, this would be easy. But with a growth mindset, effort is the only way to get better. It's the path to mastery. And suddenly, challenges aren't threats to your ego anymore. They're opportunities to grow. And that leads to maybe the most powerful shift of all. A setback, a failure. It's no longer some final judgment on who you are. It's just information. It's data. It's feedback that's just telling you, hey, that strategy didn't work. Let's try something else. That single belief, man, that is the engine of all resilience. Okay, so we've poured our growth foundation. It's solid. Now it's time to put up the framework. This next piece of our architecture, this is what determines how we see the world itself. Specifically, do we see resources and opportunities as scarce or as abundant? It really comes down to this. Do you see the world as one single pie that everyone's fighting over a slice of? Or do you believe that, hey, we can work together and bake more pies? A scarcity mindset, it operates out of fear. It's a zero-sum game. But an abundance mindset sees potential for collaboration and for innovation everywhere it looks. And the impact this has on your brain is huge. Scarcity creates what researchers call a tunneling effect. Think about it. When you're stressed about making rent next month, that one worry just sucks up all your mental energy. It makes it almost impossible to think long-term or be creative. An abundance mindset, on the other hand, it frees up all that mental space, which is exactly what you need for great problem-solving and collaboration.
All right, so we have our foundation and our framework. Our building is taking shape. Now we need an operating system to manage the storms that are going to come. The stress, the setbacks, these are your resilience regulators.
First up is emotional intelligence, or EI. And this isn't just about being nice. It's a very specific skill set for understanding and managing emotions, both your own and other people's. It all starts with self-awareness, because you can't really regulate an emotion you don't even recognize you're feeling. And the best part, unlike IQ, which is pretty stable, EI is a skill you can train and get better at your entire life.
Now, we compare this modern psychology with an amazing toolkit from ancient philosophy, Stoicism. This has nothing to do with hiding your emotions. No, this is about building serious resilience. It gives you these practical principles for mental toughness, and probably the most important one is learning to separate what you can control from what you can't. This concept is called the dichotomy of control, and honestly, it's a total game changer. You just stop wasting all your mental and emotional energy on things you have zero influence over, the weather, what other people think, the stock market, and you focus all that energy exclusively on what you can control, your thoughts, your intentions, and your actions. That right there is the source of real inner peace, no matter what's going on outside.
Okay, now before we put all the pieces together, we have to do a little structural inspection. No idea is perfect, and it's absolutely crucial that we understand the limits and the really valid criticisms of mindset theory. Which brings us to this critical question. Let's be real for a second. Is just adopting these mindsets a guaranteed ticket to success? Is it going to solve everything? Well, the critiques from academia and social science tell us we need a much more realistic view.
When you really dig into the data, the picture gets a lot more complicated. First, a lot of large-scale studies have had trouble replicating those huge, dramatic results from the early research. They often find the effects are actually pretty small. And maybe more importantly, critics argue that focusing too much on individual mindset can be dangerous. It can let us ignore huge systemic barriers like poverty and inequality, and it can create a blame-the-victim culture. It can even backfire and lead to this kind of toxic perfectionism, where people are just terrified of not growing enough.
But you know what? Acknowledging those limitations, that's part of having a truly mature mindset. It allows us to now take all these different pieces and integrate them into a model that is realistic, functional, and still incredibly powerful.
So here it is, the whole shebang, the complete mental architecture. It's standing on that growth mindset foundation, that core belief that I can learn. The walls are framed with an abundance mindset, the belief that there are opportunities. And the whole structure is protected from the wind and the rain by your resilience regulators, your emotional intelligence, and your stoic practices, which lets you manage setbacks without falling apart.
And here's the ultimate goal in all of this. Over time, it stops being about consciously doing mindset exercises. The idea is for these principles to become so deeply integrated into who you are that they just shape your decisions naturally. They help you build an intentional life that's actually aligned with what you value.
See, it's not about forcing yourself to be positive all the time. It's about building a mental structure that's resilient and adaptive. So the real question, as you look at your own mental architecture, is this: what's one small shift, one little change you can make starting today?